friends, family, fellow Wisconsinites. Today I wanted to shoot a brief video and give you an update about some late breaking news in the legal world as of Friday. So many people are familiar with notarizing a document, and traditionally you had to appear physically before the notary public in order to get that notary stamp on the document. And in the legal world, the financial world, the real estate world, this is a big part of many documents you're signing. For instance, a deed, unless you sign it in front of an attorney, it has to be notarized in the state of Wisconsin in order to be recorded. So for many real estate transactions, the deed for sure needs to be notarized, and other documents as well. So on Wednesday of last week, the state of Wisconsin issued emergency guidelines authorizing remote notarization in the state of Wisconsin. And they put out this guidance here from the Wisconsin Department of Financial Institutions. Now, basically, as I said, historically in Wisconsin, you always had to appear physically before the notary. However, Wisconsin had been moving towards remote notarization. In fact, the beginning of March, Governor Evers signed Wisconsin legislation authorizing remote notarization in certain instances. However, it was Wisconsin Act 125, but it wasn't supposed to go into effect until May 1st. So now during this coronavirus epidemic, as you know, we're witnessing bank lobbies are closed, and traditionally a bank was often the place you could go if you needed a document notarized and you didn't know where else to go. But right now the bank lobbies are closed. Also, depending states around us, many businesses are closed, so you can't physically go appear in front of that notary. Further, they're encouraging social distancing, so we really don't want people to have to go to the same room to get that notarization. So what the Wisconsin Department of Financial Institutions has done, and they're the folks that govern the notaries in the state of Wisconsin. So the Secretary of State issues your license to act as a notary. When I got my notary commission, I should say, it was from the Secretary of State. But the Department of Financial Institutions is really in charge of managing it all. So they put out emergency legal guidance on March 18th from the legal counsel, and they're saying that during this coronavirus crisis, they're going to allow remote notarization to occur. So it says the key takeaway here is, therefore, until further notice to be given once this crisis abates, for documents requiring notarization, the department will construe the statutory terms appear before and presence to include appearances by remote, live video, and audio connection. So that's the key. In the law, we always define the term appear to mean physically present, and they're saying they're going to construe it to include remote notarizations during this time. So what does this mean? So we're in this period where we had passed the law, but it wasn't supposed to go into effect until May 1st. So the department is basically saying they're going to allow these notarizations during the coronavirus crisis, because so far no one in Wisconsin had gotten set up to do the remote notarizations because May 1st was the effective date. So other states have already adopted remote notary laws. In fact, one of the first was Virginia, and Virginia has been doing it for a few years. So what you can do during this time is you can use a notary licensed in another state that allows remote notarization, and you can appear before them via live video chat like this and do the notarization. They will do the notarization for you. And under the Wisconsin Constitution, each state recognizes the laws of each other. And in fact, Wisconsin has a statute, 706.07, sub 4, sub A, that says notarial acts performed by an out-of-state notary public have the same effect under the law as if performed by an in-state one. So what that means is if you have a Wisconsin legal document or Wisconsin deed or document that needs a notary seal, traditionally you would usually notarize it here in Wisconsin. However, even in the past, if you had something like a Wisconsin deed, and let's say you were in Florida and needed to sign the deed, they would send it down to you in Florida, and you would go appear before a Florida notary public, sign it there in front of the notary public, and send it back. So this is the same system where now you can use a remote notary licensed under another state to do that remote notarization. Now, due to the emergency guidance, Wisconsin notaries like myself are going to be allowed to do these remote notarizations as well. But since this just happened on Friday, I'm not aware of anyone yet who's up and running to do it with the video conferencing software, because you need to use the special software to verify people's ID, like the driver's license, passport, other form of identification. So for now, if you're in a situation where you need a document notarized, like for example, a real estate closing that's coming up soon, I would suggest you look into this emergency guidance from the Wisconsin Department of Financial Institutions. And I'm going to post a link to the memo they posted below this video, because they will update that guidance. In fact, it was issued on the 18th, but they just updated it Friday. That's why I'm putting together the video now. And they list in here 2 providers, commercial providers, that are currently doing the remote notary with notaries licensed in other states. One is notarized.com and another is NotaryCam. But you can see those in the memo. And they'll have the list of providers. But if I were you for now, I would, if I needed a document done fast, I would just do it through one of those providers and use a notary that's set up in another state and has been doing this for a while. And then I think over the next couple of weeks, you'll see some Wisconsin notaries get the technology set up to do it as well, assuming the crisis continues. Now, one more note about Wisconsin Act 125. That act specifically excluded certain legal documents from remote notarization. And some of those documents were administration of oaths and depositions, creation and execution of wills, codicils or testamentary trusts, and the creation of living trusts or trust amendments for personal use, the creation and execution of powers of attorney, or the creation and execution of powers of attorney for healthcare living wills, and authorizations for use of protected healthcare information. So they excluded a lot of things from the remote notarization. And in my opinion, I think they should revisit that and look at including those things. But back when this legislation was being drafted, it was pre-coronavirus crisis. So my sense is they were trying to dip their toe into the remote notarization. And I think they were looking at it mainly for real estate transactions. But if you need one of those legal documents notarized right now, I think the solution, there's some question amongst us lawyers discussing whether this emergency guidance from the Department of Financial Institutions can authorize it for those specific estate planning documents. So what I would do is talk to your lawyer first and get their advice. But I would also, if you have time, err on the side of caution and set up that remote notarization with a notary licensed in another state, because we do have that statute, Wisconsin Statute 706.07 sub 4 sub A, saying that as the full force and effect. So if you really need, for example, a financial power of attorney done right now, let's say you've got a relative in a nursing home and they aren't allowed to have anyone in right now, and I have clients in that situation, I think traditionally you would try to get the mobile notary or the lawyer to come to them and witness them do that power of attorney. But right now, I think I would look into that notary option where we use a notary in another state. There's also nuances with that. You don't strictly have to have a notary on a financial power of attorney, but it's what has become common in the state of Wisconsin, and there's some statutory language saying if it's notarized, it's presumed valid. So if you're in one of those type of situations, contact me, my office. We'll talk about the facts specifically. But broadly, if you need some document notarized, I would look into those providers the Department of Financial Institutions is listing, because this is a way you can do it via webcam, just like this, live remote notarization. And I think DFI said in their guidance, at least a couple of these providers, it's a charge of like $25. So, you know, it might be a little bit more than you were used to paying for the in-person, but if it's something pressing, it's definitely worth it. And also during the coronavirus crisis, if you do have someone who's feeling ill for any reason, I think they want to utilize this remote notary method, because it's going to be hard to find a notary who will want to go in the room with them. So the remote is the answer, because then no germs are exchanged. They can stay where they are in their home, following the government's directives on social distancing, and the notary, the remote notary, can be safe in their office or home or wherever they're providing the service. So again, this remote notary legislation or guidance from Wisconsin Department of Financial Institutions, in my opinion, is a game changer, and is a good example of government acting quickly to adapt in these times of crisis. Now today, many of you know I have a YouTube channel with question and answer on common legal topics and such. But today, because of this late breaking news, I wanted to post this video on my personal channels, and I'll probably later get to posting it on my law firm YouTube channel as well. But I want to try to get some of this information out to the public, so if you're in that situation, you can share it with friends and find it useful. So feel free to share this video amongst your friends if you think it's a situation they're in. And specifically, I'm thinking of people in the midst of a real estate transaction where this could be really useful right now, and keep it going. Because as we progress here in Wisconsin, I'm hopeful we don't have to go to the situation where other states are completely shutting down businesses. But if we do get to that, then this remote notarization is also going to be really key to keeping things like that moving during this social distancing phase. So I wanted to share this video today. You'll notice our backdrop today is the Wisconsin State Capitol, the Rotunda, because of the topic of this video being this emergency guidance from the Wisconsin Department of Financial Institutions. And now I can say, in my years of practice as a lawyer, I've never seen anything in the law react this fast to current events. And I think it's a good thing, and it's going to offer more options to people to keep these different legal documents and transactions on track. So again, I'm going to post the link to that emergency guidance in this video. If you have questions about something specific, you can always shoot me a message directly or to my email, and I'll try to help you out with that, your specific facts. But I would also like you to just be aware of this, and also people in the real estate industry, contracts, financial, banks, financial institutions, a lot of them need that notarization done, and this is going to be a great new tool during this time to get the remote notarizations done. Now, if there's updates, I'll try to provide updates as I can on here as well. You might want to follow my law firm page, because I do try to post the video updates there for sure, my blog and YouTube channel. But I wanted to get this out as soon as I could so folks could have the information and utilize it as we go into this next coming business week. So thanks for watching. Be safe and stay well, and we'll see you next time.